Welcome back to another video of Wireless Interview, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about if the NFL should be retiring players after they play a certain number of games to avoid head injuries or concussions.
So obviously the NFL is a very dangerous sport. For example, an NFL player named Jay Cutler had 6 concussions in his career.
I understand you have 6 head concussions, but it's not like that's kind of a bad example because he was on shit teams all of his years. Playing for the Dolphins, the Bears, and their line, it wasn't that he was a bad player, it's just that their line let more players go through than expected. So that's another thing you have to take into account.
So there's 2 ways to look at this. One, it's the football player's choice. If they decide to go out every week, play games, and risk head injuries, that's their choice, right?
Yeah.
But the other side to look at this is that if more players are getting injured, it's going to make the NFL look bad.
Yeah.
If the NFL looks bad, less money, the entire thing drops.
Well, the average player plays around 4 years because you take a lot of players get cut. Not many retires more that they get injured or they have to leave. And for 4 years, you're not playing a full game because, no player's playing both sides. And that's not really resulting to too many games. I think you're getting around 60 games at the most, 1 game a week. It's not that many games, especially that you're not playing full games. So I don't know if you're really risking it too much. I think it's just some players get, unluckier than others.
Yeah. So you're saying if they had a bad blockers for the QB, right?
Yeah.
More dangerous.
Well, yeah, but then also, it's not just the quarterbacks that are getting head concussions. You get all these linemen that they're putting their body on their line.
Yeah.
Pushing everything they got to make sure that ball gets into the touchdown or doesn't get into the touchdown. And, putting that much effort into it, even though you have a helmet on, helmets are not 100% effective, that just leads to so much head concussions. I've already had 2 head concussions already.
So concussions can be really dangerous because if you can't detect them at first, then it can lead to later paralyzation or memory loss, right? Which can be very dangerous.
Yeah, but you also take into the fact that if, let's say, the amount of games you can play is 16 games total. That's probably not what it is, right? Because that's only 1 season. But let's say that happens, and your team, though, only plays 15 games a year because you have that bye week. And you play 15 games, and then you have 1 more game left. Does that mean you get to play for the rest of the season? Or does that mean that, you only play that 1 game and they have to pay you less? It's just, if they were to have this rule, they have to have a lot of other side rules, adding on to this one very big rule, because some of these coaches might be able to find a way around it to make it so their guy can play some extra games. It's not, when you play football, it's like you're going to get a head concussion, right? There's a low chance, but that's still a chance that people don't want to take, The big thing about football is that they always have medics, on the sidelines and people that are trained with figuring out if you have a head concussion, because obviously, like we said, it's a big thing. And Jay Cutler has had so many head concussions, right? It's just, it's not good. It's not good. And, they come out of their career. NFL stands for not for long, if you want to put it that way. And they come out of this and they're brain damaged. They've certainly lost a lot of knowledge, education. It's like they literally got their education knocked out of them, right? And they still have to live their life. I mean, Jay Cutler, I guess he was a quarterback. He already made a good amount of money. But some of these other guys, they're not all-star players, right? They're not out here making millions and millions of dollars. They can't just start spending all their money and getting all these fancy cars. They actually still have to start making money after the NFL, after they retire, even if they had a decent career.
Yeah, you're totally right. But the NFL is pretty good at treating the head injuries, right?
Yeah, they are pretty good. They they have a lot of protocols. If you get knocked in the head pretty hard, they'll bring you out. They'll check on you. And from what I know, it's not the hardest thing when it comes to checking if you had a head concussion. There's other ways to get more deeply into checking if someone has a head concussion. But for the most part, it's like, did you pass out? That's one of the biggest things. And it's also they check they do this to make sure if your eyes and your brain can actually follow with a moving object. And moving on to another subject, if you bring the NFL into play, what happens when it comes to the salaries? Because if you only have 7 games left, that means you can only play for half of the season. So does that mean your salary gets cut in half, or what's going to happen?
It's generally how it works, because once you sign a contract, that's getting paid for even the games you're not playing, right?
Yeah, so that's the thing, though. What happens if, someone, blah, 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 gets injured, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that count as them playing the game, even if they're let's say they got injured the last game and they can't even play next game? They obviously still have to get paid, even though they're injured. So does that count as a game? And then it's kind of weird, because if your contract is signed for a certain amount of games, if that counts as a game and they still pay you, but it technically doesn't count as a game towards your playing, it's certainly a bit confusing. This rule certainly needs to be, more specific.
So if this rule isn't precise enough, teams could lose a lot of money because they're just paying players for games they're not even playing, right?
Yeah. So let's just look at the big picture. Yes or no, do you think this should be a rule?
No. But I do think the NFL should have more safety protocols.
I mean, there's not much more safer they can do. I feel like it's a game. It's been a game for a long time. They tried to make helmets as safe as possible. Obviously, the new helmets were supposed to come out in 2020. Supposedly the safest helmet there is. And, sometimes in football, it's a risky game, but people like playing it. It's kind of one of those games that, people are going to get injured, and you already know that going into a game. It's just that if you play the game correctly, if you even have that, just have a little bit caution in the back of your brain. Not to the point where you're not playing full out, but just every here and there, take it back a little bit. It comes to the point of, would you rather tackle someone or go head first into someone? Even though it's a flag, it's just, the safer you play the game, if the safer you play the game and you play it safe, you go full out, there's a high chance you're not going to get a head concussion.
So there has to be a line between playing it safe and playing full out, right?
Yeah.
Because if you play it safe, right, it's good for you, but it's bad for your team. Because if you're playing it safe, you might not run the extra mile or make the extra tackle that could risk a head injury, right?
Yeah.
But if you're playing it too full out, you might actually get a head injury.
And it does help out your team. Honestly, I think this rule should be a thing, but they should make it more specific, especially if it comes to some different positions, like the kicker, right? You get these kickers playing from, mid-20s up to their 45, right? Because they can do this. It's just kicking a ball, a couple times a game. And if, let's say they only allow you to play 4 seasons for a kicker, it's hard to find kickers, man. It's hard to find a guy that can launch a ball 40 yards.
Yeah.
With their foot. And it's just, they should certainly limit it to some positions, because some positions, it's hard. If you take it to a running back, for example, getting tackled over and over again by big guys. I mean, you can't really be taking that for all these years and keep on playing. But at the same time, these players are putting themselves at risk. They don't have to be playing this extra season if they don't want to. If they really were that cautious, they could just stop playing.
So maybe for that extra season, it should be different. Maybe they can play half the games they're supposed to play.
Yeah.
The extra season. Because a lot of players, I know they're on a safety protocol where they're not playing the full games to risk head injuries or any injuries for that matter.
Yeah. In my opinion, when it comes to this rule, I think they should have it, but I just don't think they're going to get it done. It's too hard of a thing to put in. Football's been going on for 100 years now. If you're gonna want to try to put something this big in this late in the type of game, I mean, we've advanced as much as we've tried to advance as much as we can. We've been super safe when it comes to head concussions. Some people have the neck brace on the back of their uniform so they don't get hurt. Helmets are looking good. Everything's looking good. A bunch of rules with head-to-head contact, head-to-body. They've tried to safeten this up as much as they can. And to to even have that big extra rule of limiting players, it's something that I feel like should be done in a way, but I just don't think they're going to be able to get it done.
Yeah. Because, like, if you go on and they're putting more safe rules, the NFL might get a bit boring.
Yeah, it's kind of to the point where, you know, the NFL, it's kind of tough because they have to add rules so that the game stays nice and safe and that not too many players getting injured because that's a lot of money. But then you also know, like, the reason why people watch football, because there's nothing more interesting than seeing, 11 versus 11 guys going against each other at full strength, using their entire body just for this one leather ball. That's the reason why people watch football.
So football is supposed to be a dangerous sport, but now going on into future generations, the NFL has to be more careful because of new laws and stuff like that.
Yeah, like, it's to the point where you don't want to see people getting knocked down on the field, okay? It's like you said before, there's a fine line, but this comes with, in general, there's a line between making really good entertainment of people going head to head, but then there's also the point where it's like, what happens when someone literally is like, because when people get injured, they just lay on the field, and it's kind of that annoying sight you really don't like seeing. What if because of a twisted ankle, or like some of these players sometimes get physically knocked out, and it's kind of that thing that you want to protect it, but at the same time, if you protect it too much, it's gonna hurt you. It's gonna hurt the NFL more than they want to.
Yeah. So what you're trying to say, if you want to be an NFL player, play in the NFL, be a coach or whatever you want, it comes with a risky cost.
It's that kind of sport.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, in general, this rule, like I said, should be a thing, but
you're saying it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. It's
part of the NFL is like making it a dangerous sport.
It's even though this is sort of a bit different, it's kind of like when they were talking about making the NBA a 16 seed playoff.
Yeah.
It's something that it's to change something, to change something going on for that long. Sometimes like habits and traditions are just not meant, they're not supposed to be broken.
So that's going to wrap it up for this video of Wireless Interview. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment of what videos we should do next. Make sure to follow our Instagrams and our personals down in the description below. And we'll see you next video.